Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dave Trippin, the now unofficial, official series, K-Car Tales. I've been talking with friends recently about kind of moral values in Japan, and the topic came up of kind of humility or being humble. Being humble is a very, not to say it's owned by the Japanese, but I think that it's a very strong Japanese virtue that they are so humble. But the more I thought about it, it was definitely something that each of us across the ocean could learn from each other, the strengths and weaknesses for what it is that you value. Whereas I would say that probably above all else, the Japanese value humbleness in terms of an outward behavior. That you wouldn't, no one would accuse the Japanese of bragging too much. This is not something they would do. In fact, you get a lot of these, quintessential Japanese sort of competitive experiences where it's so typical of one super competitive person meets another. I mean, competitive in how good they are at the thing that they do, but the precursor to the actual showdown of their competition is them downplaying how absolutely amazing they are. They're like, oh, I'm horrible. I would never do that well. I would never do that well. And then their opponent says, oh, but I am worse than you, and I would never succeed if we were to have a battle. And then they have the most ridiculous high-level competition that you've ever seen in your entire life, where you're like, I thought these guys were gonna suck, and they're amazing. I never would have guessed this. So that's kind of like the really, really good side of it, is you get these cool kind of samurai-esque, very, very humble battles and high skill levels without anybody bragging. It's really, really, really good. Whereas you might see in the West a sort of showdown where you got these two peacocks with their tails out going, I'm the shit, I'm amazing. And then when you actually watch them compete, you're like, they're not even really that good, but they bark a lot, So that's kind of the contrast. And if you were to talk about negatives and positives between the two culture, you would say, like I just said, that the Japanese could never be accused of bragging, and that's a really good thing. It's great to be humble, and I appreciate that about Japanese people, is they're never trying to throw in your face their accomplishments. That's a really wonderful thing, and can definitely create a greater harmony with the people around you, because you're not having a pissing contest all the time. You're not always comparing yourself to somebody else in that way. And the weakness in the West is that maybe we too often are doing that. Too often we are willing to parade out our accomplishments, and we talk too freely about the things that we're proud in that negative way, where we're more showing off than just have a simple pride in the thing that we've accomplished. And so that's a great strength that I think that Japan has. But I've also seen, as I've lived here, and I hear some Japanese people talk about their frustrations with this, is that it can also lead to there's two types of pride, like I've just said now, right? Where there's the type of pride that is rude and obnoxious, and then there's just being proud of having done something and wanting to share that experience. The two are not the same. If you created a wonderful piece of art and you want to share that, and you're proud of that thing that you did, it shouldn't mean that you have to be so humble that you wouldn't show anyone that piece of art. It could be that, simple example, you've bought something recently. Say you've gotten a cool, whatever, call it a phone, call it a car, call it whatever this thing might be that you've gotten that you're so stoked to have, where in Japan it would kind of be frowned on that you would actually talk about that thing. It would be considered as though you were bragging, but that doesn't always have to be the case. If you have something that you really, really enjoy, and for that reason I just said that you want to share it, you want to share the joy that you have regarding this new toy, it's probably not even something that's essential to you living your life, with a close friend. It's like maybe if you were in like mind with a friend who was really into cars, if you got a car and you're not bragging to them, but you want to share in that excitement. And I feel like that sometimes gets stifled in Japan. It's like Japanese people are excited about something, but they would then repress that feeling of excitement for fear of making someone feel less than themselves, or in some way feeling it perceived as that they were bragging when that's not really the case. And it to my mind shows these two extremes again. It's just another sign that we should balance our lives, and one at the end of the spectrum, when you're over in the West, we could probably do with an examining of how willing we are to talk about that thing that we're really excited about, and we should probably examine whether it is through a genuine excitement that we're sharing, or is it that we really just want to show off, because two different things. And in Japan, it would be great if the Japanese people, if a single Japanese person would, if they got a new snowboard, that if they were excited about it, they didn't feel for cultural reasons, like if they wanted to talk about that thing very excitedly with a friend, that they might be imposing in some way. And those are my thoughts. It's just interesting to observe these behaviors, and of course, because when you come to Japan, you get a distinctly different culture where it's kind of like in the West, you get degrees of a similar kind of behavior. Maybe we aren't so hyper individualistic in Canada as the States are, but we share incredibly simple cultures, and so when you come over here, it's put at such odds to what I'm used to, the different shades that I'm used to when I'm back home, that I can see these other set of values when they're working really well. Like I say, nobody brags here, not that I've ever seen, but at the same time I feel like maybe this person could enjoy that much more, this thing that they've purchased or taken part in or created, and it would make them a happier person for that reason. So, how to be humble in Japan? Be really, really, really humble. Almost to the point where it stifles your joy. And this is not in all cases. Some Japanese people break through this kind of expectation and know where the balance is. Like any human can observe this, right? Just like any human in the West is able to observe when our behavior gets out of control, in that over celebration that we have when we have something that we really enjoy, where you catch yourself afterwards and go, wow, maybe I should bring that down like 3 or 4 notches, because this person here, if I'm going to be considerate of them, has very little money or may never be able to have access to this thing that I do. So we can think about it on both ends of the spectrum. I'm not saying that we're blind. It is interesting, however, to be in a culture that can highlight it because it's so different when you have these corresponding values. So I think that that's really interesting. And I think that it's a joy, as I say, to be able to come over here and to be able to observe these cultural differences, and kind of get the perspective of people within them, because I do know Japanese people, as I say, who really value it, and they're like, that is an important value, but they've agreed with me at the same time. This isn't just my pure speculation. They've thought as well that sometimes I do feel like it kind of prevents me a bit from just expressing something that I'm really happy about because I don't want to offend. Extremes are bad. Extremes are bad, in my mind. That could be another conversation in another video. So thank you for joining me in Dave Tales from the K-Car. It's a good time. It's raining really hard, but it's beautiful in its own way, and I'm so fearing the summer heat that I'm like, no, it's okay. It can rain like this. This is totally fine. It can continue like this for a little while. Yeah, so if you have any questions about Japan or interesting topics, things to discuss, maybe cultural details, always post a comment down below. What are your thoughts about kind of being more or less humble in your own culture? How is it viewed? Is it an extreme? Is it in the opposite direction, maybe like I say it is in the West? What are your thoughts on being more humble or reserved in regards to things that you are happy or excited about? If you want to get a hold of me and ask me any questions about teaching in Japan, living in Japan, of course, my personal information, my personal email is down below, so you can get a hold of me with that. I haven't got a big backlog of emails. I went through a bunch of them, and I will respond to the people. If you're checking out this video and you have written to me, I will respond to your email. I always do. You guys are awesome. Yeah, so get a hold of me that way. If you happen to enjoy this video, please do tap that like button. I really enjoy talking about the cultural stuff as I kind of observe and go along here. Maybe you do too. And if you're returning to the channel, thanks always for checking out the videos. If you're checking it out for the first time, why not subscribe? You can check out more like it if you so happen to enjoy it. And if you like games, there's my gaming channel right there. I'm thinking of getting The Division. I mentioned that in the last video, but I'm I'm making a move real soon. I got a few more things to sort out with getting a new vehicle, but as soon as it's done, I can get my priorities straight and start playing video games again. Yeah, so thanks so much again and again and again for checking out the video, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Ciao for now. Peace.